So it's the announcement of a new X-Men book, but this time it's not really Dawn of X. It's X-Men Legends, and this is going to be a new ongoing series coming out from Marvel. And basically, this comic is intended to tie up the loose ends, dive deeper into stories that were really kind of left undone from the 80s and the 90s. In particular, stories like who the third Summers brother was. Ed Brubaker ultimately revealed that to be Vulcan, but there was some question around that. There was at least some mystery around whether that was accurate or whether there's some shenanigans going on with it. Jonathan Hickman has tried to make Vulcan more integrated with the Summers family, but there's at least enough evidence and enough stuff there, even in what Hickman is doing, to suggest there's some more stories to be told. So we are getting this new ongoing series. It's called X-Men Legends, and it's going to kick off with Fabian Nicieza and Brett Booth. To basically, their first story that they're going to tell out the gate is going to be around that connection to the Summers bloodline. The exact comment from Marvel is that they're saying, break out the yellows and blues, fire up the danger room, snap on your pouches as legendary X-Writers return to classic eras of the mutant superheroes in an all-new, in-continuity stories set during their groundbreaking runs. So just as an offsite, or an injection here, lots of people have fond memories to the 90s and to different eras. I think every time they do this, like, remember your pouches, and they kind of like poke at that kind of stuff, it doesn't generate the happy, fond feelings that I think Marvel thinks it does. People just want these great stories. They don't want to be teased like, let's go back to the 90s. If you look at stuff that works from a nostalgia perspective, whether it's Cobra Kai over on Netflix, or you look at kind of the various nostalgia plays, they don't lean in by really kind of emphasizing that stuff. Even like Stranger Things, which arguably has a decent amount of nostalgia play as part of it, they'll have these pieces. They'll kind of poke at the clothing and some of the other stuff of that era, but they don't make that the story. And I always worry a little bit when, right out the gate, it's like, let's get back to those pouches and no feet and, that kind of stuff. It just, I think you sabotage your own efforts a little bit when you do that. Your very first and biggest part of the story should be the story. That you got a killer story coming up. You're going to solve some of these X-Men rumors. But anyway, the press release continues, featuring greats like Chris Claremont, Louise Simonson, Fabian Nicieza, Larry Hama, Peter David, and more. X-Men Legends will deliver startling tales month after month that dive into the rich history of the X-Men to tie up loose ends, resolve long-standing plot danglers, and reveal shocking truths that will change the past and future of the X-Men. Fabian Nicieza, known for his explosive work on the X-Men in the 90s heyday, kicks off the series with a special saga of Cyclops and Havoc that will solve one of the greatest X-Men mysteries of all time, Adam X and his startling connection to the Summers bloodline. It's incredibly exciting to finally tell the story of that infamous third Summers brother. So for people who don't know, Adam X was long rumored and intended to be the third Summers brother. There's a brief flirtation that Gambit might be the third Summers brother, but they kind of walked away from that relatively quickly. And then Adam X was kind of going to be that character, or at least people thought it was. And then they dropped the whole storyline completely, and that's how we wound up with Vulcan later. At any rate, 25 years in the making, says the press release, to see the truth about Adam X revealed, drawn so magnificently by Brett Booth, is one of the most surreal experiences of my career, Nicieza said. Getting the opportunity to tell this tale while kicking off the new X-Men Legends series is extremely exciting. Don't miss this revelatory tale that will leave X-Men fans speechless when X-Men Legends #1 takes the comic book industry by storm this February. And stay tuned for news about the other decades in the making stories coming your way in this once-of-a-kind title. So that's basically, what we're getting. We're getting a lot of classic X-Men stories in their classic, outfits and other things. And I can't help but point out at this moment that, almost a year ago on this exact channel, I was talking about, some cool projects I'd love to see. And I actually mentioned at that time that if you had Brett Booth, specifically Brett Booth, and you could get him to draw a bunch of classic X-Men tales that kind of could fill in some of these gaps that Chris Claremont never resolved, that would be a cool thing. It would be selling. So I'm just going to say I think this is a great idea, and I'm glad they're going about and doing it. Now, to make this work, of course, the title is going to need to, certainly be listed as ongoing. They need to not have it be one and done issues. They need to, the Mystery of the Third Summers Brothers should be 6 issues, or should be, a batch of comics. It shouldn't be just crammed into one story. If they go out the gate and it's just single issue stories, that's going to be a mistake. The other thing they need to do is they need to have some of these mysteries and some of these things that are revealed in this title connect forward into the current Hickman Dawn of X books. So if they reveal something there, there should be some clever ways of how it catches up. This book feels like it's somewhat disconnected from the rest of the X Office and the current Dawn of X stories. It feels like it's living in its own little world. Hopefully the stories don't feel that way, because that will be, I don't want to say toxic, but that will be definitely, it will hamper its success. But that's basically what we're seeing. We have a brand new X-Men book. Are you excited for another X-Men book? This one, of course, being a little bit different. If you think about over the last basically January and February, you've got +3 X-Men titles. You've got Sword, you've got this X-Men Legends book, and then you have the Children of the Atom book by Vita Ayala. That's 3 new X-Men books, basically. We are hurtling to that world where we may get 20 regular X-Men books, because I think King of Black also has an X-Men. I think there's King in Black Marauders, which is another series as well. So it's the X-Men are running the world again at Marvel. It's been quite a while since that's been the picture, but that's what we've got. So let me know in the comments below. One, are you excited about this? What are some of the big storylines you'd like to see resolved? I think that, there were some plots that, actually a really great one to do, a story that would be perfect here, is that Chris Claremont had a bunch of unresolved plots with Moira that Jonathan Hickman sort of picked up and made relevant with his Moira different timeline, whole plot that became part of House of X Powers of 10. And if you want to really connect these books up and make it feel like you're doing something special, then having Chris Claremont fill in some of the gaps with what he was planning with Moira, and have that also then connect to what Hickman's doing with the X-Men, would be a brilliant idea. But we'll see if they do that. Anyway, it's the opportunity to do a lot of stuff. It's going to be interesting to see how they retcon some of this stuff, or fill in the stories when so many things have been retconned in the present. The entire nature of Apocalypse and everything he's up to has had a lot of retconning going on to it. So how that this potentially sets up for a lot of very tricky planning. So hopefully the editorial team at Marvel is up to the task. We will see. But what I'd love to know is in the comments below, are you into this book? Is this one that you would buy? How much do you think it should tie into Dawn of X? What are some of the big plots that you think that they should definitely try and hit as they're going through that? And what kind of artist would you like to see? I mean, Brett Booth is announced for this very first story. And again, it's unclear. My worry a little bit in this press release, and I would love for some confirmation one way or another, is this first story by Fabian and Brett, is it one issue, or is it multiple issues? I've read through this now multiple times, and we really don't get any kind of indication there. My fear is that it's one issue, and it really should be. They really should do more than that. They need this book to feel important if it's going to generate attention. But the idea that we're going to get some Larry Hama stories, some Louise Simonson stories. I mean, the attention will be on Chris Claremont for sure. But I'd love to see some more X Factor stories with Peter David. I'd love to see Louise Simonson really kind of getting into some of the gaps that occurred when X Factor first started up in New York. And if you could lure over Walt Simonson to come over and join her in doing some comics with that would be super brilliant. So I'm hoping that we get a lot of those things. The promo art teases that X Factor lineup. We see them in their costuming from that arc. I think that there's an opportunity with some of the big events to dive in more. So anyway, a lot of possibility. It's a brand new X-Men book. Are you in? Are you out? Let me know in the comments below. Like, subscribe, click the bell for notifications. But most importantly, thanks for listening.